Hi everyone, I hope you're having a wonderful Saturday. This is my 8th live that I've done this month. And today we're talking about IBS and the gut-brain connection. Today we are going to explore irritable bowel syndrome known as IBS. Welcome to the podcast Fibromyalgia Real Solutions with Amanda Love. You are listening to episode 8. I'm talking about IBS today because most people with fibromyalgia suffer from IBS. By the way, you can listen to the podcast wherever you are in the world at any time that you wish. I always include show notes for those with brain fog so you don't have to take notes. And the podcast is on Apple, iTunes, Spoof, iHeartRadio, so anywhere that you listen to podcast, it is on there. And the podcast is Fibromyalgia Real Solutions with Amanda Love. I do believe that there's a lot of information, both good and bad, out there about fibromyalgia. As an educator who specializes in this area, I think it's my job to point out to you that the beneficial information can be organized in a fashion that will reduce the symptoms of this malady. My name is Amanda Lee's Love, and I was diagnosed with fibromyalgia 9 years ago, which influenced my decision to enter the field of nutrition. And now I'm a registered holistic nutritionist who works with those who are suffering from fibromyalgia. To understand what IBS is, it's best to compare it to inflammatory bowel disease, or IBD, which is actually a condition that a doctor can diagnose, while IBS is an intestinal issue that a doctor can't diagnose. The IBS diagnosis is one that a doctor can't give until they have tested for everything else, and those tests are all negative. However, that doesn't mean that IBS is any less real or less difficult for those who struggle with it. IBS is basically a group of symptoms with an origin that cannot be identified. It's interesting to note that almost 40% of people who visit their doctor state they have gastrointestinal problems. It's estimated that 60 million Americans suffer from IBS. This is a disturbing number for doctors and their patients because without addressing the root cause, they can't do much more than mask the symptoms. Here are a few symptoms of IBS. A change in stool composition, chronic constipation, diarrhea, abdominal cramping, especially after meals, excessive gas, severe stomach pain, and nausea, and mucus in the stool. Other symptoms may include headache, fatigue, insomnia, muscle pain. These symptoms for those with IBS are chronic, lasting for at least 3 to 6 months out of the year. So you can see symptoms like these can be very debilitating. It was previously thought enormously that IBS was psychosomatic and a problem caused by a real or perceived stress that was all in the head. But there is a problem here, as it implies that a person can control their symptoms or think their way out of it. However, those with IBS know this isn't the case. So doing away with that theory, IBS is classified today as a gut-brain axis problem. Researchers recognize that the gut-brain axis is bidirectional communication pathway, and that IBS is caused by a combination of things that could disrupt the nervous system in the gut, the production of digestive enzymes, and muscular reflex system. The root cause of IBS can be SPO, which is small intestinal bacteria overgrowth, food intolerances, leaky gut, parasites living in the gut, yeast overgrowth, zinc or magnesium deficiency, or heavy metal toxicity. So the common disruption of the nervous system and reflex is why IBS is categorized as a gut-brain axis dysfunction. So what does the gut-brain axis mean? To repeat, the gut-brain axis refers to bidirectional connections between the brain and the gut. We also have a nervous system in the gut called the enteric nervous system. This is part of the autonomic nervous system, which controls all muscle contractions and reflexes that happen during digestion. IBS is considered to be a disturbance in the autonomic nervous system. What used to be considered modified dysfunction is now looked at as a breakdown of communication between the gut and the brain. The result is hypersensitivity, meaning the body starts responding to stimuli that normally would be difficult. This may sound weird, but scientists today believe that the gut is a second brain. It has more neurons than the brain and the spinal cord put together. In fact, there are 100 million neurons in the small intestine alone. A neuron is a nerve that communicates and transmits information throughout the body that acts like a control panel, sending signals to other neurons, except now we know that our control panel isn't located in one central place. There's a control panel in the gut too. Neurons communicate with other nerve cells by neurotransmitters. You can think of it like a game of telephone, where a message is passed down the line of people from one individual to the next, each person receiving that message through their ears before communicating it along. The brain sends all kinds of essential signals or neurotransmitters, which tell the body really important messages like instructing your heart to beat. And as we have been saying, the gut is the biggest sensory organ, so is that a lot to say. There are about 20 to 30 various neurotransmitters in the brain. The gut has the same variety. If you think of neurotransmitters as the language through which neurons communicate, then your gut has a similar ability to communicate with as many words as the brain. And it appears to be as equally complicated as equally smart. Overall, only 1,200 nerve fibers connect the brain to the gut. Such a small number is part of why scientists believe the gut has a mind of its own. At this point, you may be starting to see the complexity of gut function. What we do know is that IBS is a group of symptoms, not a specific disease with a name. While there are numerous root causes for IBS, the underlying connection is that they're all involved in dysfunction in the gut-brain axis. Of permanent importance in managing IBS is deep healing of the gut, so the gut is producing the right enzymes, neurotransmitters, and stress receptors. We know that gut health and mental health are more connected than we thought. Sufferers of IBS need information and support to improve their condition. This is possible through changes in their foods while avoiding those foods that are harmful, supplements, and through lifestyle changes. With improvement in overall health, people will begin to feel much better. For your information, here are a few suggestions for supplements to begin the healing of the intestine. Number 1 is acidophilus, suggested dose as directed on the label, to replenish the friendly bacteria needed for digestion and for the manufacture of the B vitamins. Use a non-dairy formula. Number 2, essential fatty acid, flaxseed oil or primrose oil, suggested dose as directed on the label, needed to protect the intestinal lining. Before we dive into the third suggestion, I wanted to remind you that if you guys want, you could either sign up for my free sleep guide, and I'll put the link in the comments. It's on my homepage of my website if you'd rather do that, www.amandaleselove.com, where you will get a weekly email to improving your fibromyalgia, or you could sign up for a free health discovery call where we could talk and I could help you either with the IBS, the fibromyalgia, the pain, the fatigue that you are struggling with, because I want to help as many people as possible this year feel better with their health. Okay, let's go back. And if you want to do that, that's also on my website, and I'll also put it in the comments. Okay, number 3 is the third suggestion. Colostrum, suggested dose as directed on the label. It heals the intestinal lining and aids in nutrient absorption. Also consult with a physician to receive help with controlling the IBS symptoms, or you can get help from me. And I look forward to talking with you soon for tomorrow's episode on IBS Part 2. So I hope you guys have a wonderful evening, and I'll see you tomorrow.